dollars on our mind. Ideas all the time. We might get distracted, but we're building wealth just fine. This is dollars and distractions. If we went off track, just know we're coming back. More money, more mindset, no holding back. Dollars and distractions.
I'm Beck.
And this is
Dollars and Distractions.
So today's a bit of an unusual one, but it's a really common thing that I'm finding at the moment. And it's around, we were talking about it earlier this morning and we just went, this is a podcast episode.
Oh, yeah.
People coming into the mortgage broker industry.
Yes.
So I wanted to talk about that.
Okay.
About what it's like in the mortgage broker industry, what people's perceptions are. Because, we make this shit look good.
Or easy. You make it look easy.
I don't know about that. If you look closely and you see all the grey hairs, you'll know it's
mine. Yeah. There's only grows on one side, though.
You're lucky.
What do you have?
I've got them all down my hairline. Oh, they're all throughout, but mainly.
Oh, you can't tell, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just saying that because I pay the wages.
No.
Yeah, you're so sweet.
But serious. So what part of it?
Well, so I think there's so many parts.
Yeah.
But what we were talking about earlier this morning around, going to this broker versus that broker. And I think it's worth noting there's a lot, the entry level to become a broker is quite low.
Yeah.
So you can effectively be working in another industry, doing something completely different and know not much about the financial industry, and then do your certificate part-time, and then all of a sudden, okay, you can become a broker. You can be running a mortgage broker company. Yes, you might need some mentoring for a bit, but you are a broker. So then you're presented in the market as a broker, and a client would just see, here's two brokers. Here's one, who has just started their business, all good. Here's another one, maybe been in the industry for a little bit. But what they don't know is that the second broker who's been in the industry for a little bit could be someone like you. Like, it might be a brand new broker, but they've been living and breathing and working in the finance industry for, I'm not going to give away your age. She's very old.
22. Yeah.
For 20 odd years.
Yeah.
So you know a lot of different things.
Yeah. And I think that was raised too, because I went to that, I went to a bank training day and I sat next to a gentleman who was a bit older, and he introduced himself as shit with names, so I've forgotten his name.
Let's call him Ralph.
Let's call him
It makes
Ralph.
me think of the Simpsons character Ralph.
And no, he's definitely not
Let's
listening.
call him Jeff. So every time you say his name, I can say, my name's Jeff.
Jeff. So Jeff was sitting next to me, and he introduced himself as Jeff, and he worked at such and such, and he'd only been a broker for a short amount of time. And I said, oh yeah, same, me too. Only been about 6 months. And then Dino was over.
A friend of
ours said, no, like, you've been in, banking for 20 years, but then you kind of discredit what you know. And it does make me think there are brokers that come into this, and to not have any banking background just blows my mind on how you would pick up jargon. Like, we all call it jargon, like bank jargon, offsets. Like, we do a podcast to educate people about banking. But if you came into this and you're writing loans for people, it just seriously, not to discredit those people, but it just actually credit them to go, well, that's, if they're picking
the learning
this up,
trajectory is so intense.
Yeah. And, like, I suppose when you're working for a bank, you slowly work your way up to something. So you start as, well, not everybody, but generally you'll start maybe as a teller, as a CSS, like a customer service person. Then you might go into management, or you might go into loans or whatever, but you learn, I suppose,
more and more as you go.
Yeah, ways of doing things, where I suppose with broking, you can just pick up a certificate for
And start writing loans.
Yeah. And I suppose in broking too, it's what's that number? Like 33,000 brokers in Australia. Don't quote me but it's quite a high
I've
number.
literally just quoted you on that, and if you're incorrect, you're in big trouble.
I stand
There
corrected.
is a lot of brokers. I mean, we're writing as brokers. We're representing over 70% of the market now, which is amazing because it means that 70% of borrowers are going to a broker to get financial help. Not just getting that loan, but to then go, right. So I had an email from a client this morning who said, right, this is short-term goal, long-term goal. We need to make sure we're factoring it all in. And I was like, great, based on that, this is all the things we need to do. And what my recommendations were for this client, a bank could not facilitate on their own because it needs multiple lenders. So it's great that we're representing that many clients and helping that many people and giving that advice. But I think there's a risk because the entry level to become a broker isn't you need to have had banking experience for set amount of time or anything like that. And I know, I don't know how to say it, but there's so much I learned in that banking history in my time in the bank that I don't think I would have been the broker I am today if I didn't have that experience.
And I think if I look at biggest thing I took as well, and not to say that the brand new brokers aren't like that, but the biggest thing I learned was about customer service as well. Like, I don't know, I think with that many brokers.
Still learning, managing people's perceptions.
But with that many people in broking, how do you stand out to against, broker one being chosen down the road and broker two being chosen? They don't know what your background is.
We're
they
not
don't
giving
know
our
whether you're brand new.
Yeah.
So it's interesting what I've found in the last 6 months knowing this. It's not actually, it's not always word of mouth and things too. It's how you stand out to people and actually show. I think we're very similar in personality, that we're pretty genuine humans. Like what you get is.
What you see is what you get.
Yeah, I don't think we fake anything. And I think people pick that up.
You do have fake nails.
I do. Well, no, they are mine, but I put shellac on top.
Just playing.
I know. Although I'd like some fake things.
Fake eyelashes.
I don't have time for that. Do you have time for that?
No, I don't have time for
that.
I
don't have time for that.
I don't even have time for a hairdresser. So, excuse me. Hold on 1 second.
Choices, but.
Oh, a client of mine saying, hey, girl, I miss you like hardcore.
Oh, that's cute.
You would love this client. Wow.
Oh, really?
We have to do lunch with her. Anyway, that's off topic. Okay, so bringing it back, entry level being so low.
Yeah.
It's funny because I see now what I was like before I became a broker in that, and I was telling you this morning, when I was working for the bank and I'd settled set number of loans for that month and hit my target. And I said to a colleague I worked with, do you know, if we were a broker, we would have made this much money. And I think the perception of how much money a broker is earning, yes, we work really hard. Yes, it's really stressful. Yes, we do get paid well for what we do. There are risks as well. So there's the clawback risk where we're working for free. There's also the risk of we could submit one application 4 times. 4 times. We could submit the same application. We've had...
Not if you get a pre-approval.
Not if you get a pre-approval. We should do a podcast episode where we talk about all the files that I've just been like... Yeah. But we've had a application where I've worked on it, got it to, we're almost at settlement and the time lapsed for certain reasons. Then you've gone and done the application again, got it all the way to settlement and time lapsed again.
Yeah.
And now I didn't tell you this, but I reached out to the client yesterday, beautiful client, to say, hey, how you going? Look at your face.
Oh dear.
Don't hate me. So we don't get paid. And so we're putting work into something and you don't get paid until it settles.
Yeah.
You know, all those things that people from the outside looking in go, oh, being a broker's awesome. It's what I want to do because they make so much money. And I think if that's your mindset and that's the reason you're doing that, I think you could become unstuck.
Which interesting you say that, because 6 months ago, making the decision to do this, I never
Yeah, you
even
weren't about the money at all,
I
were
didn't know
you?
about the money. I didn't know that
Oh, now
that's
she
how much.
knows.
No, but I didn't know that's how much brokers got. I had
Mhm.
no clue. I didn't really. To me, it was just you have more capability of helping a larger range of people, and I suppose the money was a bonus. But to know now that what I've picked up even from like your brokers club and people talking, different brokerages run them very differently.
Yes.
Their staff very differently.
Yes.
It's just very different to what I thought. But like we were talking this morning, what industry are you in that you don't get paid, or you can be paid for something, and if someone
Do the
does,
work,
yeah,
and then 6 months later they say, give us back the money.
yeah. And for people who don't know, because I didn't, if you refinance or you pay out your loan in the first 2 years,
Mhm.
the commission that the bank has paid a broker will get taken back.
Yes. So that's
Yeah.
what I meant earlier when I said clawback.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the biggest bugbears for brokers, because when we get paid set amount of money each month from our commissions, we need to set aside a certain amount for clawbacks.
Yeah.
And that's because clawbacks can happen sometimes. I've had a client settle on their loan, beautiful clients, and then the day after she said, I'm done, I'm leaving you. And so inadvertently, I got a clawback, not through fault of the clients. They didn't plan, you don't plan to separate, but they'd purchased a property, settled on the loan, and then obviously not long after sold it to separate. So I've still done the work.
Yeah.
But then the bank says, well, we didn't get a full 2 years worth of that loan, so take back the money.
Yeah, and imagine working somewhere like, for wages, and then a year later they say, oh, look, something happened and we're going to take your wage back from a year ago.
Or as a plumber, you're a self-employed plumber, and the client says, 12 months down the track, we've sold our house, so we no longer need that plumbing at that house, so can we have a portion of that money back, please?
Yeah.
How about no?
Yeah, that's it. And the other misconception that I think is the fact of people, you don't have to pay for a broker out of your own pocket unless
That is
specified.
a misconception.
Yeah,
yes.
It's the bank, the chosen bank. And I know here, like I have only worked here, but I know here you definitely don't pick lenders based on a certain commission that they pay, which,
I actually am proud of the fact that I couldn't tell you what banks pay what.
Yeah.
So I work on just an average. The average lender will pay this much.
Yeah.
And I don't even really pay too much attention. I don't know. Maybe it's me. But in my head, I'm like, if I'm helping this many people, I'll get paid roughly this much.
Yeah.
And then it fluctuates. I got paid less this month than what I had anticipated because it carries over or whatever. But I'm like, as long as I'm helping as many people as I can and doing the right thing, you get paid.
Yeah.
And I like that better.
Yeah, but I suppose too, now being exposed to a whole lot of different of the brokers, everyone has a different way of running their businesses. Isn't it?
Although I like to think, particularly in the circles that you're in, because you're in the same circles of brokers as me, that no broker I know would put someone with that bank because of any other reason. Yeah. I have had, interestingly enough, I've had a client come to me and say, my broker, every time I talk to him and do any lending, he always says, this bank. This bank, this bank.
Yep.
And he said, can you just throw your eyes over my situation and tell me, if I was a new client, what would you suggest? And I did exactly that. And I came back to him and said, look, I have to say, I would give you a combination of this, or this bank. And he never came over to me. He went back to his broker, which I thought was interesting because that broker, in my opinion, was going with the bank that's going to give him more reward for having done more deals with him. So he's going to get a faster answer, which isn't a bad thing for the clients, but he's just going to get better benefits by writing a lot of deals to that bank.
Yeah.
And so if it seems like it's going to fit with them, that's where they go. Whereas in this business, we're like, well, hang on, what's going to be the best thing for the client? Let's give them a choice of the top 4 and let's leave it in their hands.
Yeah.
There's only been a couple of times, especially recently, where this morning I said to a client, your borrowing capacity and what's going on in the market, interest rates likely to increase. This is the only bank that I would recommend. And I've still given them a little bit of an option, but I've pretty much said, if you want me to get this loan approved, we need to go with that bank because it's not going to work with anyone else.
Yeah.
Most times I prefer to give them an option.
Yeah, absolutely.
and leave it in their hands. And then if they choose the wrong bank, that's
It's a choice.
yeah.
Yeah, but that's pretty cool that we can do that, though. I think that's the coolest part of this is that you can, like you said before, like even that friend of mine I spoke to last night, being that she's an accountant, there's certain banks that will give her different, different options for LMI, where again, if you're just with a bank, then you don't have that range of, and I think it opens up people's eyes as well that there are other options around
Absolutely.
that they can, different rates, and you assume that smaller lenders have higher rates all the time because that probably was how it was back in the day.
Yeah, but it's not the case, hey?
No, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely been eye-opening for me coming into this industry. Well, we're all in the same industry, but the broking in particular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think that there needs to be some type of succession plan for people to move from wherever they are into, unless you're coming from the finance industry. And there is mentoring. So if you're a new broker, new to industry, you need to have 2 years of mentoring.
Yeah.
But how do you cram what we've learned in 20 years at one of the major banks into 2 years?
Yeah.
And the other risk is you're only really getting, so that mentoring is based around the deals you're working on. So in my business, or in this business, I should say, we've got first home buyers is our target market. We do a lot with first home buyers.
Yeah.
So you would get very well versed with the first home buyer and not so well versed when it comes to investors, or we are starting to get a lot more investors, but we don't have a top heavy book with investors versus owner occupied.
Yep.
And that would be different for every other business.
Yeah.
So you're almost getting really good at one thing, but not learning about, right, how do we structure this loan so that you can get multiple properties in the future if that's your long-term goal.
Yeah.
Because we do always bring it back to goals.
Absolutely.
I think that's the beauty of our history as well, because we worked for a bank that was very much get to know the client and what their long-term plans are, and then you just help them achieve those long-term plans and the business will come in.
Absolutely.
So that's just always been my mindset, and it's easier.
That was plumbed into us, from day
By your
one.
success coach?
Yeah.
That
yeah.
was me.
Yeah, but all the way through. And then, when I started to manage, and then it was then teaching people how to do that. It's always been coming back to the goal. And I remember saying to a staff member, you don't have to be silly. I think if you actually have a conversation with someone that's actually about, if you would genuinely have a conversation with someone that's going to help them, you don't need to be selling steak knives. It's just the genuineness will come through. And if there's something that helps them, then, but in broking, there generally is always something that helps them. That's
Absolutely.
what I like.
Yeah. So the proposal I sent to the client this morning, where I'm like, right, long-term plan is to get an investment property. This is what we need to do to restructure your current lending to put you in the best position.
Yeah.
It's not, I'm actually not going to get paid on a large portion of that because they're not going to be using those funds straight away.
Yeah.
So it's probably in my financial best interest to recommend a different structure.
Yeah.
But it's not about me. It's
Yeah.
about them getting into the investment that they want. They want to start building their property portfolio. So this is the structure that's going to put them in the best spot so that we can do the pre-approval for an investment purchase.
Yeah. It just made me think of
Yeah, you had a little smirk there.
I did, didn't I? I read this thing this morning about also another thing coming into AI. AI will be a bigger thing. I probably haven't been too exposed as much to AI in
Can
terms
I cut
of
you off just a little bit and say to anyone listening, please do not go to ChatGPT and ask loan type questions. I have a lot of clients call and say, ChatGPT said this, and I'm like, it's wrong.
Yeah, don't listen to him.
Doesn't matter what it says. I'm telling you, the bank will want this. End of story.
Absolutely. But
Sorry,
I suppose it is an industry though that moving forward, it is one that and VAs, virtual assistants, I didn't realize that wasn't prevalent in banking as much, but I think it will start to be more that. But something I read this morning said that two type of people won't be affected by AI, and that's the manual labor people, plumber, and then there's others that like ADHD people and people who think outside the box in terms of their business. And I was like,
We
that's
are
pretty.
set.
Yeah, I was thinking
We are
that's
so
pretty.
set.
Yeah, because you can't put a price on. And I suppose that's me coming back to what differentiates one broker against another
Uh-huh.
is genuinely like, I don't know, their person,
Yeah.
what stands out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that
I think the attitude too. Like
yeah,
we talked about this the other day. You're working on a file. It was looking sketchy.
yep,
And I was like, right, do what we need to do, or not do what we need to do. Work on options so you can go back to the client and say, right, how you want it, we can't do at this stage, but this is what we can, going back to our banking days, this is what we can do for you, and give them some options.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's because our brain can go outside the square.
Yep.
What do we need to...
Yeah.
Can we pay back credit cards?
Yeah.
Can we reduce limits on the current home loan? What can we do so
I
that
think
this
if you
can
don't
get
think
approved?
like that, then
Yeah,
it's either black or white.
And then we're not saying to the client, you must do this. We're saying, here are some options.
Yeah.
If you want, and we talked about this on another podcast episode, then, the client can take that option and say, well, it's worth it. I'll get rid of that credit card and go ahead. Or actually, no, that's a no deal.
Yeah.
Not doing it. And we're like, okay, that's no drama.
Yeah.
But we gave you some options.
The other thing that I thought coming into broking, and particularly why I'm glad that I work for you, is obviously, and yourself, a customer can call you and say such and such down the road says I can borrow up to 1.5 mil, and then you do something and they say, oh look, what I've plugged, I'm only getting 800,000, right?
Are you talking about a scenario I had late last year?
But
maybe.
But I think that's pretty well.
Yeah.
We've been to things where they call them creative brokers. I didn't want to work for a creative broker.
No.
That's just not who I am, and it's not.
Can I full circle on that particular scenario? Because I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
And that was a horrible phone call to make to a client saying, actually, because he was calling me saying, I can only get 1 mil. What can you do to try and get me more?
Yeah.
And I came back and said, actually, I'm not even getting that. I don't know what they're looking at, but this is not your borrowing capacity.
Yeah.
And then I also said, and just heads up, this is the repayments on what you're looking at. And he balked and said, I can't afford that. And I'm like, no, I know. Yeah. So, and then he went back to the original broker who then looked at the real data and went, oh, yeah, no, you can't afford that.
Yeah.
So it felt horrible to have that conversation. But then once he came back to me later and said, I actually went back to that broker and that broker looked at it properly and said, no, I can't afford it, and that you were right, I felt good in my heart to know, this sounds horrible, not know that he can't get what he wants, but to know that he's not going to be putting himself and his beautiful young family into a position where where they're in trouble.
Yeah. And I go back to the couple of scenarios where working in the bank, I've had like a customer come in to sign their broker documents, and they had you taught there, why didn't you come with, why didn't you come with us? I did try with you, but you could only lend me this amount. And then you look at it further. I looked at this particular further, and he was an elderly gentleman, but there's way that broker had been able to get him able to buy an investment property by, dodging numbers to say that his primary he was receiving rent on. So, I think there will be people out there all the time that fudge things in a way that, that do that. But I think,
as a listener,
Yeah.
I would be, and we've talked about this before, I would be looking at what are the repayments on that? Because you in your heart know, yes, I can afford that, or no, I can't afford that.
And can you comfortably live like that?
Yeah. So just because someone's saying you can borrow this much doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
Unless you're comfortable with that repayment. And if it's an investment property, you need to be comfortable with, if it goes unrented for a little while, what does that look like? And have you got reserves, or is that putting you on struggle street? And if it is, then it's a no deal.
Yeah. Yeah. So I suppose too, there's a big job for clients to be picking the right broker for them as well, because there are so many.
Interestingly enough, I've had a few clients leave me and go to those I'm trying to be really careful what I say, repay your home loan in 7 years and, we'll help you do that. And they've come back to me for various reasons. But typically what I find their complaints is the broker who's setting them up is also putting them in investment properties. So they're getting double pay. Not that that's a bad thing if they're doing the right thing, but they don't necessarily believe that the properties they're putting them into were long-term the best options for them. And then the service as well. So it was very much let's get you in, let's get you stitched up, for want of a better word, with a new investment property and get you out as soon as possible. And so one of my beautiful clients, I helped get his first investment property when I first started the business. He came back to me just last year and said, they don't know me, they don't like me, the service isn't great, and they just want to stitch me up with any property. I want to come back to you. So we did, an overhaul, helped him get his owner-occupied property and another investment sorted, all done. And then he came back to me just recently on the phone and asked me a question about his current banking. And I gave him what answer I would give any client knowing he's in this situation and this is what he's got going on. And his text message back was, and this is why I've come back to you.
Oh,
because I wasn't like, right, let's get you with another property. Let's get this moving. I was, all right, these are your options. This is what I know your long-term plan is. This is what I would recommend from here. And he wrote back and said, beautiful. This is why I've got you as my broker.
And how tricky, though, for a client to pick a broker. Like, we're talking about brokers coming into a broker industry and not having any experience with banking. But if you typically aren't savvy with finance as a human, like in your everyday life, how tricky to decipher.
How do you know?
How do you know?
Especially when they're talking the talk. And
I
mean, if someone said to me, come with me and I'll get you debt-free in 7 years, I'd be like, oh, bloody awesome.
Well, it perked up that thing I heard when I was like, yeah, you can pay your home loan off and send them, oh, okay, let me listen to that.
Yeah. That's an episode we're going to talk about soon. So make sure you tune in.
I won't
for
be
that.
talking much on that. I don't know anything about it.
I think that's it so I really just wanted this episode to be more about, if getting into the finance industry is something a listener is interested in, I think it's the most rewarding career. I just think you need to be mindful of the growth that needs to happen when you first come in so that you are doing the best for clients, and that your intentions for why you want to join. There can be a lot of money made.
Yeah.
But I think
And someone said to me the other day, you're going to be a millionaire in like knowing then how much a broker makes. So you're going to be like, you're going to be like making squillions in like a year or two.
Why am I not a millionaire yet?
I don't look at it like that. I think long term, that's a long term, if that's a bonus, that's a bonus. But I don't think it's, to clarify that, what I'm saying is you don't walk into being a broker and go, I'm making money for that.
Can I tell you, so many people I speak to who say, hey, I want to pick your brains about becoming a broker, they're always asking about the money.
Yep.
And that to me is a red flag.
100%.
I would never discredit someone from joining. In fact, when I first went to join, I spoke to another broker with my aggregator. He said, call this person and chat to them about what it's like being a broker. And he pretty much, I thought at the time, you're very arrogant, which after I joined, I was like, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
He said to me flat out, if you're joining to become a millionaire and make lots of money and work a couple hours a week, this is the wrong industry and don't do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. Well, lucky for me, that's not actually why I'm joining. So never mind. But I see what he meant now.
Yeah.
Because it's a hard slog to get to a point where you don't have to work so hard. And I haven't got there yet.
Yeah.
And I've been doing it for 9 years.
Yeah. And saying, I suppose it's got its, this isn't a slander on, but it does definitely have its positives. It's a job that you can be flexible around kids, but I mean, you do have to put the hours in. Like, it's not like you just do 5 hours a day, or whatever. You do have the back end as well. Like you work nights, weekends, Yes,
I
you
try
get
to work
flexibility.
nights where clients don't know I'm working, though.
Yeah,
so that,
like the back end stuff.
Yeah.
Not so much.
And the
contact.
phone goes. I mean, how many times has our phone rung while we're sitting here chatting?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Mine's been buzzing on my leg.
Yeah, it's been buzzing.
On that note, I think that's a wrap.
That is a wrap.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Dollars on our mind. Ideas all the time. We might get distracted, but we're building wealth just fine.